Foster.
Hello, Lilou. Good to see you again.
Same for me. Good to see you. Great to connect with you. I'm excited about your movie. I've seen it, watched it. I had so much emotion. It was so inspiring. I'm totally thrilled about what's going on and the courage that you had to get this started, this movement started about 9 years ago. Thrive 1 was a huge success internationally. Now you've launched Thrive 2 internationally as well. So we have it in French, we have it in all different languages. And it's really an honor to be speaking with you today and getting some more information on what it took for you to get this movie out and the core messages, because there's so many. This is such a thick, there's so much information in there and it's so exciting, and you were able to do this from a loving perspective, even though you're talking about authority and the global agenda, but also free energy and consciousness, expanding our freedom. I just love it, and I see the core really, and I want to get started with this interview because I have so many questions, as many viewers of your movie have, because I really hear how important it is to, throughout this movie, for you to get this message out, that it's important that we own ourselves.
Yes.
That we regain our sovereignty. And this is so precious to hear this message done in a very, delicate yet powerful, loving way.
Yeah, especially at these times when the authority is trying to wrap around us and take over every aspect of our body. It all comes back to individual freedom.
Yeah. And what's fantastic throughout the movie is with all the information that you bring, and starting with science and health and all that, we can see you going through your own struggle to connect with these inventors. Because let's recap, let's go back a little bit. You actually receive thousands of emails after Thrive 1. Thousands of inventors went towards you and said, we have solutions, but not all were good, right?
Well, it was one of the things that surprised us most, and it was a great surprise, is these emails just started pouring in, because not only did they realize that we were aware of the possibilities of advanced technologies, but we were also aware of the history of suppression. So people contacted us from over 90 countries, and so I started reading through these things and passing them on to our engineers and doctors and so forth, and we realized there looks like tremendous potential here. So Kimberly and I spent about 5 years traveling around the world. She was more oriented toward the health. I was more oriented toward the energy, but we would often overlap. And we just started seeing so much good news. Now, a lot of it, as you say, probably over 90% wasn't what they claimed or hoped that it was. But 10% of 1,000 still leaves 100 fantastic breakthroughs. So that's what we've been really focusing on, and finally figured, okay, we've got to make a move and get this good news out there.
Yeah. So you don't get right into the movie right away into those free energies and those solutions that you have found, and how you even struggled to get them out there.
We had so many different story arcs. In our script for the film, we probably had over 100 different ways that we arranged it before finally landing on, okay, let's start with the science. Even though a lot of people don't think that they're good at or interested in science or something like that, if we can make it beautiful enough and simple enough for people to get this beautiful, amazing conscious field that we're all living in all of the time, if they can fall in love with the field, then realize they are the field, then they've fallen in love with themselves, and then it provides a basis for this leap of realizing, oh my gosh, there's free energy technology, there are cures for cancer, there are ethical philosophies which can transcend the political polarities, and all of those are simply effective applications of harmonizing with the flow of the field.
You call it the science of love, don't you?
Yes. I do. Science and spirituality are really coming together as one now. I remember I had the opportunity to talk with the Dalai Lama for an afternoon once, and I asked him, I said, what's at your leading edge? What are you most excited about? And he said, I'm thrilled about my meetings that are happening with Western physicists. And I said, really, how come? And his eyes started to glow, and he said, because they're finally starting to get it.
Wow.
And that's really what's happening, is what the mystics have been telling us about this field and about the interconnectedness of everything and how everything is alive. That mysticism that they got through direct experience is now coming together with quantum physics in the unified field theory, which we're really proud to be able to reveal in this movie.
Yeah, I love how you talk about this straw, because people that meditate have felt it or seen it, or, how there is this very, can you tell us more inside the torus, inside actually a storm, inside of ourselves, there is this pure kind of, can we say, connection to
Yes.
downloads and to amazing visions and experiences.
Well, we lay out in the movie the geometry of the unified field, and basically it's little spinning donuts, little toruses at every scale, from the subatomic quantum Planck level all the way out to the galactic clusters. About as far as we can measure right now, everything is just these toruses, and every torus is centered by absolute stillness. And it turns out that not only are all those toruses connected, but the consciousness at the center of every torus is one. So it doesn't take any time to communicate to the other ones, because it's like, if I move my hand, I can move all my fingers, and, even though they look different, they're all part of my consciousness. So I can move them simultaneously. And once you realize that, and this is why the mystics have known it for a long time, they have found stillness in their meditation for thousands of years. And once you find that stillness, you connect with the stillness of all the other toruses. And then you can move through intention and emotion. And the inventors that we came across were speaking the same language as the shaman. The shamans were talking about using the frequency and vibration and resonance for consciousness expansion. The doctors were saying the same thing for healing. And the inventors said, once you create that stillness, then you've got a straw, and the straw goes into the cosmos and pulls in whatever you need. Infinite energy, infinite healing, infinite consciousness. It only gives you as much as you can take at a particular time, and it will cut off the moment you try to resist.
However, we're always communicating with the field.
Yes, the field is communicating through us, and we're listening to the field. So there is this toroidal loop where our point of stillness is in constant communication, sending our messages out, listening to messages come back in. So we are each the still point at the center of our own torus.
And how does the like internet, how does the vastness of this the flow of energy comes in? How does it get bigger? How do we get more in the flow? How do we get those insights and those downloads stronger?
Well, the interesting part of being a torus in this way is the more you come into resonance, which is being in harmony with the field, the bigger your torus gets. The meditation teachers I worked with many years ago, they said on the higher levels, the consciousness, when they see more light in your meditation, they send more light. And that's the way it works. They're not going to send you more than you can handle. That would be like putting too much electricity through the circuits in your house. It's going to blow a fuse.
Yeah.
But as you naturally expand your circuitry, as you let go of resistance to life itself, what happens is then you can channel more and more energy through you, and that comes across as vibrancy, as it comes across as health, comes across as telepathic ability to connect with other people, and it also comes across as being open to the wisdom of the field, because the field is consciousness, the field is all of knowledge, what they call the Akashic records.
So there is, because I guess you ask all those inventors the question, so where does this come from? How did you get this idea? At which point? This is not a question that is answered in the movie, but I guess you had those answers, because some don't really even know where it came from, it seems, or maybe extraterrestrials, or just download from the field. What did Maxwell, for example, told you, or the guy that found some solutions with hydrogen?
Yeah, I love that question because we didn't have time. We've got it on film, but we didn't have time to put it in the film. Maxwell, from the time that he was very young, literally a child, would spend hours a day in prayer. Similar, in another culture it would be meditation. Another culture it would be sports or whatever. But he grew up in a very evangelical Christian community
from
in Africa.
Zimbabwe. Let's just remember who is Maxwell. Remind everyone who is Maxwell.
Maxwell Chikumbutso is the brilliant young inventor from Africa, one of a few that we found who has mastered accessing free energy. And so it took me 2 months to find him. We had a great connection over a call just like this, and he invited me to come. He said, I'll show you everything. And he said, and I've never said that to anyone before. So I went and heard this story from him because he was in prayer all the time. And when he was 14, all of a sudden, he started getting downloads. In his language, God was answering his prayers. But what he was being shown was electronics concepts. Here's this kid, dropped out of school in like the 7th grade in Africa, and now all of a sudden he's getting from the field these full-blown electronics concepts. So he keeps getting these until he feels like, okay, now I understand electronics. What am I going to do with it? So mostly he was focused on radio frequencies. So he built a unique radio transmitter in his backyard, starts a radio channel, starts broadcasting, and of course the government comes around and said, no, you're not allowed to do that. Yeah. He says, okay, well, what else could I do with my understanding from the field, from God? And he had, in another vision, in a prayer session he was in a remote medical clinic in Africa, and there were people dying for lack of refrigeration for the medications. So he comes out of this vision and goes, oh, maybe that's something I could do. People should be able to access electricity anywhere, anytime. So he went into it, he created a little laboratory, went in, started building things, and sure enough, a couple of years later, he had it. And now he's learned how to combine radio frequencies in such a way that they condition the field around batteries so the batteries never lose their charge.
But he when you ask him the question in the movie, so where does this come from? He's actually not really able to say. He says it's unknown source.
And the electricity, he said he doesn't know whether it's from another planet, from aliens. He says it's just what God put over our heads. And he's committed to getting this out to the whole world. He said this was God's gift through me for all God's children. Yeah. The former government in Zimbabwe actually tried to get him to give the technology exclusively to their military. And he said, no, he said, I'll share it with you, but I won't give it to you. And so they put him in prison and they tortured him, and he still wouldn't do it. This is the courage of this young man. They finally let him out, and now he's beginning to share it with the new regime in Zimbabwe. He's become friends with the president, and they're helping him now to use this technology to light Zimbabwe and also to light the world.
So did you find out that government actually now, or there's more support for this to happen? Or because you actually show all the inventors that were suppressed, that were poisoned, that were killed. I mean, this is a reality that for amazing technologies and new free technologies like that, there's been a lot of suppression. So what's your feeling about right now? What's emerging? Is there good news?
Well, it has to be very carefully done. There are some investors, there are some governments who are open to helping with this, but there's still many who are not. They're unfortunately one of the 4 best inventors that I know of was just killed a month ago in South Korea. He started to try to market his device, and he was visited by the Minister of Science and Technology in South Korea. And the guy came with a film crew and an entourage, and they had the usual pictures with the arm around the shoulders of the inventor and so forth. And then 2 days later, his lab went up in flames, and he was in it, and he died, and the technology was destroyed. Fortunately, there are other things I can't say about that yet, but that technology has not been completely eliminated. There are still people who know how it works, and they're in the process of getting it away from those dangerous forces. And like we say, getting the toothpaste out of the tube where it can't be put back in.
Difficult to put together such a movie, or did you also met with opposite forces that tried to stop it, or how was your experience those past 8 years on putting the movie out like you did?
Well, it was a lot of hard work in gathering the information, raising the money, making the film. But, you know, it's a total privilege to be able to do exactly what I think is the most important use of Kimberly and me right now. But no, we kept pretty much under the radar for quite a few years here. We haven't been public about what we were doing because we knew it was so big that we just wanted to get it out of the tube where it couldn't be stopped. So we didn't meet any resistance along the way. We travel with not only a film crew but with a security crew as well. But fortunately, we never needed them.
Yeah. Clearly what comes out is that love is always the answer. It's one also of the very inspiring moments in the movie when you don't know really if you're going to be able to go through meeting some of the people and the experts that you bring forward in this movie. Love is always the answer. Do you have I mean, a recommendation for any of us that are going through hard times or seeing confrontations or situations that are not really comfortable?
Well, yeah, and I'm a very practical guy. So I love nice sounding platitudes and so forth, but I'm a real, get down to the strategy and the technique and the tactics and the practice to make these things work. So on our website, we're offering a whole teaching on how to start by finding your own purpose, and then deciding which of the sectors of human endeavor you want to work on, and then which issue within that, and then which level of engagement, immediate needs, systemic change, consciousness shift. And once you know that about yourself, you're a very powerful person who can then start a group, join a group, and bring all that self-knowledge to it. And so we're doing that to help people collaborate, but also we're encouraging people to take the steps that I mentioned in the movie of find a physical practice, whether it's yoga, meditation, sports, dance, whatever it is, something through which you learn to center your body and to flow with energy. And then do the same thing at the emotional level. Get a great teacher to show you how to blend with fear and sadness and anger, to allow those things to flow through you so they disappear and bring the energy of the universe in. Then do the same thing mentally, and then do the same thing interpersonally. It takes a lot of coaching. This is something I used to do for 15 years in Silicon Valley. I was a communication facilitator and conflict resolution coach. And so there are specific skills as to how we can really learn to listen to another person, and how we can really learn to express our feelings and thoughts as different. And what are our requests? What are we willing to promise to do? There's a whole science of how to relate successfully to your own body, emotions, and mind, and also to other people. And the better you get at it, the more experience of love you have in your life.
It's like dancing with the cosmos, you're saying in the movie.
Exactly. I used to teach the nonviolent martial art of Aikido, and people would come up to me after a demonstration and ask, what was that? It didn't look like you were even fighting. And one of the things I would say was, Aikido is the art of dancing with someone who doesn't know yet that they want to dance with you too, even when they're attacking you.
And the universe works the same way. Basically, the more that we're aligned and the more we're in resonance and vibrating at the frequency of the universe, the more things naturally get in order, can we say?
I think that's a beautiful way of saying it, because when you do that in your meditation, your mind gets clearer and clearer. So if you ask a question, you can see when the field feeds back the correct insights. When you're quiet enough, when you're in communication with someone else, you can actually hear their self-expression rather than just be going through your own rebuttals in your head and so forth. So the more we learn to come into harmony with the wholeness of the field itself, the more wholeness is sent our way.
I saw a few of these little art crystals in there that you're wearing at the beginning, and Nassim is there. We see Nassim in his laboratory, Nassim Aramain, that I had the privilege to interview, and he often comes to Europe, and we love him here. This is for you new technology. This is how do you what do you see things like that and other things that are coming out right now that are is that enabling us to be in harmony and at the same pace in the universe? I mean, how do you what does this what does those new technology allows us to do? Is it just to realign or more?
Well, Nassim and I have known each other now for 23 years. We've been working together. So I've watched the development of the arc crystal, which you just held up there, and also I was there with him in the beginning in the lab when he started developing the resonator that charges that crystal. And that crystal is a perfect example of what we were just talking about. Yeah, the geometry of that crystal, the crystal has been grown and then charged and then placed in that magnetic holder so that it's free. It kind of floats and can oscillate. And the geometry is very specific to go into resonance with the geometry of the entire field that we lay out in our visual effects in Thrive 2. And you know, some people might think, oh, this is just some little new age crystal, belief or something like that. And it's good to be skeptical about it, but it's also good to check it out. And I was there with Nassim and 70 other people in Egypt when we were in the three pyramids the entire full night in October. We had the king's chamber and the other chambers to ourselves, and we had large collections of those very crystals where we're each wearing one of those crystals, and we believe that the Great Pyramid itself is one of those crystals. So and then we chanted and we tuned our intention with the entire earth and sent that message out into the cosmos. And again, it can sound just like make-believe, but I'll tell you, Lilou, I haven't told this story publicly before, but we got contacted by a Russian space agency a few days after we were in there. Actually, the Egyptian leader of our tour got contacted and said, what were you doing in the king's chamber that night? And you're not even allowed to meditate or pray in those things usually. So he just said, well, we were just doing a little chanting, a little meditation and so forth. He said, no, we monitor the entire world's electromagnetic frequencies 24/7 from satellites that surround the planet, and we've never seen what came out of that pyramid that night. And so that was a real kind of verification. And then we went up a few nights later to a temple, where the temple of Isis, where we were allowed in during the middle of the night to the Holy of Holies, where they used to have this type of crystal. And we put a 64 tetrahedron crystal there, did the same ceremony, and now we knew to check we checked on the internet on any pulses, any electromagnetic waves, and sure enough, we found a chart for Africa and Asia, and the most powerful pulse in the predicted frequencies were coming out of the Nile area that very night at exactly the hours that we were in there. And they were thinking it was, some kind of earthquake or something. There was no earthquake. There was just literally a resonant wave that we had put into the field by harmonizing ourselves with the crystals, with the geometry of the cosmos.
So whether it's this crystal or one of the other technologies that we're discovering in the movie is, I guess, the intention and who we are in contact with it makes a huge difference. Because for some people won't feel anything, or I mean, all those. Are there warnings or how do you say astuce tips on how to fully be able to embrace this new technology? Is there a new way for us of being in touch with it so we can fully benefit from all those technologies?
Yeah, I don't think it's a new way, because again, I think the mystics have known this for thousands of years, but it's finding your own still point, allowing yourself to be quiet and authentic, and then to align your intentions with the harmony of the field. If You know, if you're walking around and you go over at an angle like this, you can do that. You know, you've got free will, but you're going to be very sore and very tired very quickly. But if you align yourself, whether you're walking or meditating, then the field will feed you more and more energy. And it's exactly the same with these new technologies. If you try to push these technologies, like the old energy things that are where you try to get energy by burning or crushing or exploding, no, where those are threatening our very existence. All the new energy technologies that we have found, they all operate on resonance. So if you dance, like you were saying before, if you dance with the field and are in clear intention, it will feed you what you want and need.
So it amplifies who we really are.
Exactly, yeah. When I used to teach communication, one of the principles I would show people is that if someone's telling you something and you're not really hearing them, it devolves into an argument. If you really hear them, whether you agree or not, if you really hear them, then they feel like their consciousness has just been recreated. And if they do the same coming back to you, what happens is the conversation gets bigger, and then it gets bigger, and both people start to feel energized, and out of that, anything is possible. And it's the same thing on the technological level, the healing level, the consciousness level, that it is on the interpersonal communication level.
Is it at certain point in Thrive 2 you show for house, like to be using the solar panels and be able to be autonomous? Like a lot of us wants to be autonomous these days. We want to be independent of other systems and be able to have our own electricity and garden. And any recommendations or findings or other things than in the movie that you want to share with us? Because there seems to be the issue of the fluctuation and of it not being fully constant all the time, like the electricity that we could have from solar panels or the food that we can create at home, or there is those, how do we deal with that? This non-perfection, because we've been used to perfection. We've been used to everything comes to us, all the time in constant flow. So there's a mindset here to change or a way of apprehending things differently.
Well, we showed some examples in the film of healthy blood cells. They're little toruses floating along with the other healthy toruses, and that's what creates a healthy body. It's the same thing at the human level. If you are really taking care of your individual torus and your sovereignty, your freedom is being honored by other people, then of course we're social beings. We want to come together in community. That's just the opposite of communism, where a few people seize control over everybody else and make them come together to follow their orders. So community and communism are very different. So individual sovereignty at every level, from self-esteem to having access to your own food and electricity and your community of neighbors and so forth, it seems to be a key part of peace of mind. And particularly in these days when this whole COVID fiasco is going on and literally the entire world has been locked down into their homes, masks put over their faces, now they're being surveilled and tracked and traced and all of this stuff. This is a perfect example of what the would-be controllers want to do to us. So where I live in Northern California, people are buying seeds like crazy. They're digging up their backyards. They're planting food. They're already harvesting things. And it doesn't mean that everybody needs to be a food grower. You may have a talent that you can share with your neighbor who's a farmer. You may be able to fix their computer or give them a massage or something like that. But we do need to be independent of the would-be controllers if we're actually going to be free and live a thriving life.
So there's truly an agenda. I mean, we already spoke about this in Thrive 1, but you talk again about it in this movie, how it's important for us to make a differentiation between legal and moral.
Right.
It's not because the government is putting out a law that it's moral.
Right. Well, there are natural laws like don't murder, don't rape, don't assault, don't cheat, don't steal. And then there are man-made laws where some people say, well, you have to do this and you can't do that, but it's totally arbitrary. It's serving usually their own desire for money or control. And unfortunately, the global domination that we laid out in such detail in Thrive 1, unfortunately, we were right about all that. Not a single fact or claim has been disputed successfully in almost 10 years. And so we go further in this one, in Thrive 2, to show 4 different lists of, okay, here's how humanity is doing a good job so far of keeping the chips out of our bodies and exposing pedophiles and doing alternative currencies. And the list goes on, though you're not going to hear it from the mainstream media. We're actually doing great in a lot of ways. But at the same time, those who are behind this so-called New World Order agenda, their goal is very simple. It's to dominate and control the entire world. It's a very sick, psychopathic agenda. Sounds like a horrible James Bond movie or something like that, but it's true. And anybody who doesn't see that at this point is not wanting to know. But the key to knowing that is realizing, okay, if that's the truth, then what can I do about it? Because the powers that want to control us are getting so desperate right now because their money system is falling apart. They're hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt, the big bankers, and their militaries aren't cooperating in starting new wars and so forth. So they're trying to do what we call in football, throw a Hail Mary. They're trying to jump across the goal line before they get totally exposed. Because for years they've dreamt of having global martial law, a cashless society, and having mandatory vaccines, and being able to lock people down in their houses and keep them away where they can't protest. And the list goes on that they have been trying to achieve. And all of a sudden, within the last 6 months, virtually all of those things have happened worldwide. So we're right at the threshold of either exposing those people, obsoleting them because we outnumber them way more than 1,000,000 to 1, just getting them out of the way and moving naturally to a thriving society. Or if we don't wake up, we could all of a sudden find ourselves in a global communist, fascist, totalitarian state where there's no longer anywhere to run to. You can't go to Canada, you can't go to France, you can't go to the US. Everything has now been locked down. I don't think that's going to happen. I think people are waking up, but it's not decided. It's up to each one of us.
You're saying, or Kimberly is saying in the movie at some point that Earth is at stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And it's time to really get on track. I mean, really, I've already exhausted a lot of solutions. I mean, we have already went through different solutions and it's not working. So now it's really time to get out there.
Well, the government solutions don't work. Almost everybody has been duped into supporting their party to seize the reins of power, and then it's going to work. But no, as soon as anybody's given the reins of power over other people, other than in self-defense, it always turns to tyranny throughout history. So the key is actually walking away from the whole notion that anybody should be ruling us. There'll still be institutions, but they'll all be voluntary. You'll have independent security. You'll have independent conflict resolution, independent insurance, independent farmers, everybody competing freely for success in a true free market, accountable to the non-aggression principle, which is the key to this whole thing.
So it's called the non-aggression principle. This is what you're saying is a solution that you have found to this.
It's the core. We're not going to get out of this global mess through politics. I ask everybody nowadays, what's your percentage of confidence that we can solve all these problems politically? Not a single person has said, I feel great that if my party gets in, we're actually going to be able to solve them, even though that's what they're fighting for. So what we say is the answer to a thriving world is not politics, it's principles. And the core principle, I believe, that we've been missing is the non-aggression principle, which says no one is allowed to initiate force against anyone else except in self-defense. Now, most people say, well, of course, that's the golden rule. That's obvious. But then they turn right around and support and vote and give their money to a government which does exactly that. They will come to your house with guns to take your money if you don't agree to put in your taxes, with which they will go and wage world wars, take your kids and turn them into soldiers and destroy the environment, support the multinational corporations and all of that. So it's both the simplest and the most radical notion I know of on the planet right now, is that we should each have freedom to do what we want as long as we don't violate anyone else. Because that means no government. It means a stateless society. And for most people, that's like, oh no, you're taking away my mommy and daddy. How's it going to work without a government? Well, that's the question we need to be involved in. I'm in the midst of writing a book describing all of that right now. And I'm opening up what I'm calling the Freedom Portal, a dialogue on our website that people can subscribe to, where we will be, I'll do presentations and articles, but also we'll do Q&As both ways, and I'll be bringing in other experts to literally flesh out what are the principles for a thriving world and how can we get from here to there.
Thrive 3.
Don't say that to Kimberly. No, we'll be doing media, but it'll be more, I think, in small chunks than another one of these, creating a Hollywood level feature film with a very small team and limited funds is a truly exhausting thing. And Kimberly and I think we're a little too old to do that again. But we'll be in this communication as effectively as we can the rest of our lives.
So what are the actions that you want to see? What are the things that you have put together to allow the conversations and the people to regroup and create? You're talking about this forum and these discussions. What are the call to actions that we could take?
Yeah. Well, on the simplest level, I recommend to people that they go to thriveon.com and see the movie, see both movies if you haven't, and then that you subscribe to this Freedom Portal and then join the Solutions Hub. We're just about to launch in a couple of weeks. We'll be launching the new version of our Solutions Hub, which already has 1,100 groups from all over the world in it that are taking on hundreds of different issues according to these principles. So that's the very practical actions. On a more strategic level, the strategy behind all of it is whatever area you're interested in, recognize the breakdown, whether it's in the economy or in the health system or in the media, whatever area you're interested in and good at, recognize why it has been and why and how it's been corrupted and destroyed. And then take the steps along with other people through our Solutions Hub to restore the wholeness of natural systems. And we will end up with asset-backed, honest money. We'll end up with free truth, not free in the sense of money, but free in the sense of liberated truth media, like you've been doing for years. One of these days, if we're going the direction we're going, they're going to come to Lilou's door and say, no, you can't talk to these people anymore. You can't express your truth because it undermines our authoritarian state. And we don't want to see that. We've got to turn this around while we've still got the internet, while we can still talk to each other about these things.
But I'll find a way, Foster. We always find a way.
So will I.
You see, this is why I love what you have created and say, hey, look at where you're at and how you can, because it's us living on purpose, and then something bigger takes over. Like I've seen so many miracles with these interviews over the years and connections and the money coming at the right time and so many different things that have happened that have been truly extraordinary. And the more we open to our purpose, the more we're supported naturally.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what the answer to the question I was just going to ask you, because you have talked to so many amazing people all over the world. I'm really curious to hear from you. Maybe you just said it. I want you to say it again. What is the core theme for a thriving world that you've been hearing from all these different sources?
To live on purpose, to open whatever, everything that you have said really in the movie, that making our decisions from the heart and yes. following things that sometimes seems a bit crazy or and then we do it, and then all of a sudden we're into a new space. It's about getting into the unknown and following our heart, our intuition, and letting go little by little of all the fears and memories. I see so many people that are carrying still memories from their ancestors. This is not ours. This is us to really let go of, so we can fully think clear, be clear channels, and then things just flow naturally because we're abundant, because we are definitely interconnected, and we forget. I'm glad that you put forward the unified field, because this is it. This is definitely a key idea. But most of the people that I've interviewed that are living their purpose and putting things out there, they are fun to be with, they're inspiring, they're light, the energy is light, their frequency is light, and that's what the kind of people I want to continue to meet, because this uplifts me and feeds me, and
that's a beautiful description of a thriving world. Imagine everywhere you go, people are experiencing that. And that, of course, that's what almost everybody wants. There's a very small percentage, somewhere between 1% and 3% of really psychopaths who have organized to try to handle their own fear by controlling everyone else. But they're getting exposed now. They have to go up against truth and love and the life force itself in order to try to do their covert agenda, and those days are gone. We will win this, and I encourage people to just keep visualizing what it would be like in your daily life if everybody was thriving, because that's what we're headed toward. Our great-grandchildren they'll look back in the history books and they'll say, they used to what? They used to eat these toxins and breathe these toxins and let a few psychopathic tyrants tell them what to do. All that will be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that human beings used to do that.
Yeah, because as we visualize this, as we feel it true, then new solutions, new ideas come.
Totally. That's the creativity. As people are set free, because I know clearly the history of freedom. I've studied it for 20 years. And I'm quite clear on how a thriving world could and would work. The transition from here to there, of course, is unpredictable, and nobody should be imposing it on anyone else. But the key to it is when people's creativity is unleashed, they will come up with cryptocurrency. They will come up with cures for cancer. They will come up with shows like yourself, which brings so much truth and love. In fact, that's what's happening already, and it's spreading. This is the good virus that's spreading, the virus of love and intelligence that's spreading across the planet.
Yeah, and what I see is that the old media, even I see it in France, comes towards people like me now, because they see that people want more fulfilling content. And I see an opening, and little by little, if we're patient enough, I feel like in doing what we have to do, they're the ones that are going to come.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I have several friends who have just been podcasting for 10, 15 years. And a bunch of them have larger followings on a daily basis than CNN. Now, they don't want you to, the mainstream doesn't want you to know that, but they're desperate to try to get people. I mean, Joe Rogan's got 11 million people listening to his podcast every day. And CNN's lucky to get 1 million, watching a show. So it's definitely disappearing because they've become propaganda arms. They're not actually going for truth. They're not going for a thriving world.
Last little question regarding the people that you chose to sing the song that is absolutely mind-blowing, and that I cried listening to those words, because it hits such a deep spot within myself, and I'm sure within many people. How did you come across them? What's the story with the song? Because last one was awarded, so that was like another big challenge for you to top it again.
Wait, are you talking about the Thrive song or about the Narayana chant?
The Thrive theme song with the lady and the gentleman singing together.
Yes, well, that was a vision that Kimberly had. I mean, I wanted to have a Thrive theme song, and I'm not a songwriter really, but I had written some poetry on different areas to hand off to some really good songwriters. And we knew these two people, Ariel Tierman and Austin Willisey. They didn't know each other, But Kimberly, when she heard each one of them sing, she said, oh my God, their voices would sound so amazing together. And frankly, I didn't get it until I heard them sing together for the first time. So we invited them both over to the house and had them sing together a little bit. And then we told them about this idea of ours, and they loved it. And they went away and wrote a beautiful song. It didn't have a bridge yet. It didn't have where the song just takes off and soars. And we brought in Gary Malkin, who's our composer on the original score for both films. He came in and brought that whole thing. And then they did both a rock and roll and an acoustic recording of that just is touching people all over the world.
Thank you so much for this delicious interview. Is there another something else that you would like to say that I didn't, you didn't mention throughout this interview that is important regarding the movie, or where you're at right now, or what's next?
Well, I think we've covered a lot in a short amount of time. I really appreciate your helping us to get the word out there, because the bottom line is that the truth that we've found is so hopeful, yes, but in a really grounded way. We not only have the unified field theory, which brings science together with the spiritual mysticism of the ages, but we're showing it in energy and in health and in consciousness and in freedom. So if for those of you who are doubting yourself these days, or doubting humanity, or think it's hopeless, please go see this movie. And with the energy that you'll feel at the end of that movie, we invite you to join the Thrive movement and the Thrive Solutions Hub and bring your unique, beautiful, valuable piece, because that's how we'll make this all happen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Foster. Thank you for these delicious interviews and all this information and putting this movie out. Wow, I cannot imagine all the work and all the wonderful adventures too that you must have along. And I look forward interviewing you, seeing you in person, and also interviewing Kimberly, because you have created this together. So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Lilou. It's always great talking with you.
Thank you. And all delicious co-creators out there, now you have Thrive 2 to watch. I encourage you to download it and to share it with your friends. This is life-changing, world-changing, humanity-changing movie. This is very important to get out. So thank you so much. Please share also this video. And I send you lots and lots of kisses. See you soon. Bye.